This is the sixth part of my exposé about Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. I am going to give you a quick recap on what happened since my last video. So we all know they destroyed the introduction of the game again. In the first island, now we get an additional optional ending to suit the feminist agenda, where the evil bitch now is the hero. On the next island, that is Engo or Bormont in the next scenario. Not a lot of changes, but the fact that you already are carrying with you the water that helps you to stop the volcano from erupting. See, you need to understand that a lot of the changes in this DEMAKE are made to speed up things for Zoomers. So many times all of the changes that they made are with the purpose of speeding up everything. You also need to understand that in this DEMAKE you no longer have to speak to NPCs to activate the next part of the story. Nothing like that. You don't have to do any investigation, you don't have to figure out anything. You only need to follow quest marks for brain dead people. It's like that. So it is really easy to go through these stories. It takes a couple of hours to go through many scenarios that in the original game would have taken you at the very least like 10 hours or more. The next part is Regenstein. In the original game is named Dilak, and on this part of the game, like I said, you don't have to figure anything out. Everything is told to you. We already know that they changed the game for babies, so the scenario where the statue crumbles down is changed, is removed. After that we go to Larka. In the original game the name is Orf. In this scenario there is a change. Instead of you having to go to the present time to recruit the woodcutter that speaks with animals, basically Dr. Dolittle, you now get to talk to the people before they change into animals, completely gutting the story, completely cutting out this character. But in the DEMAKE you also have kind of a replacement for this woodcutter, and now supposedly the one that had Ruff or Gabo in the original game in chains, now it's a villager that apparently took care of him even though he had him on chains. Stupid changes like this you can expect in this DEMAKE. There is also a cringe as fuck scene at the end where Gabo gets to speak with his actual mother. That wolf bitch appears and sheds a tear. It's cringe garbage, you know. They changed everything for babies now. Then you get to Falrish or Frobisher in the new version, and they add a new scene where Kiefer fights the automatons himself. He holds them off and you now have to go without him to get the scholar. That was changed. In the original game that doesn't happen. We also remember that in my previous video I showed you that there is this little bitch that now is an engineer. It's a woman, a little woman engineer that fixes the robot instead of the actual engineer. Well, that was changed, you know, feminist garbage. After Falrish you will be in Verdam, or in the new version it will be the Green Thumb Gardens. Apparently this is now an optional scenario, but in the original game this will be your next step in the story. But since that is now changed, you now go to the Deja Tribe scenario, and in the Deja Tribe scenario they changed another part of the story just to fit an agenda, a feminist agenda. Like I said in my previous video, now Layla is not a damsel in distress, now she's a fighter, and now she stands between a monster and a kid to defend the kid because she's a fighter now. She is not a damsel in distress anymore. Another change to fit a feminist agenda. Now after that the Old Trades Abbey or the Dharma Temple in the original game, and the first change they did to this section is that they removed the casino. You can no longer play the casino. It was replaced with the lucky panel. That's the only thing they left from the casino, because as I said before, this game is now for babies. Everything is being changed with the think about the kids bullshit. In the original game there is this big dungeon that you have to go through, and it's a bit involved, it's a bit confusing, but that's the point of the dungeon, to figure out where to go. And you go through this dungeon to rescue the priest, the real priest of the Dharma temple, and you have to solve a little puzzle there where you need to throw down some rocks into some crystals. After that there is a scene where you figure out that Neris, the sister of Saji, is now being replaced by a monster. Kasim figures out she is a monster, so you defeat the monster, and now in this part is where Kasim and Saji fight each other, and Kasim ends up stabbing Saji with the spiritual sword or the soul sword or something to make him recover his soul. After that you go through another very lengthy dungeon, and then you recover your stolen powers, all your skills, everything is recovered, and you now are able to use them again. After you finish this scenario, in the present, the Dharma temple, the priest of the Dharma temple is actually a man. Now let's see what they changed in the DEMAKE to this section. In the DEMAKE, when you go to the present, you see that now the priest is a female. They changed the male priest to a female priest. Also, the sister of Saji is no longer a monster anymore. They removed that entire part, and when Kasim confronts Saji, when they both fight each other, Kasim no longer stabs or thrusts the sword into Saji's body, because that will be too much. We are making the game for babies now, so the only thing that they do now is to raise the sword to the air, and now they sword cast a ray into the victim's body, and then the sword either removes or gives back the soul that the sword has taken. That's a change for babies. Aside from that, pretty much the entire scenario is the same, but the dungeons were completely dumbed down. All the dungeons were changed to make them easier to go through. In the DEMAKE now you are able to get the first part of the story of the flying carpet. In the original game that only happens a bit later. Now the next scenario you go through is the Dune scenario, or the Al-Balad in the DEMAKEs. In this scenario pretty much everything is the same. They have done the same. They changed the dungeon, the Sphinx dungeon, they changed it a bit to make it faster to go through. And after you finish this scenario, when you're back to the present, you're now able to recruit Aisha, and this happens way late into the original game. In this DEMAKE now you are rushed to recruit Aisha, and they implemented more feminist agenda, if you can even believe that shit. Now to recruit Aisha, she needs to fight and beat her own guardians to prove to the tribe that she is strong enough. What a load of crap. That doesn't happen in the original game. In the original game, you just recruit Aisha. That's it. You don't need to demonstrate anything. In this DEMAKE, you get to fight with the main character with Aisha against her own bodyguards, but it's stupid still. The core part of this feminist change is that now Aisha has to prove herself as a warrior. It's fucking bullshit. We know what they are doing this. This is feminist agenda. And of course, Maribel also has a discussion with one of Aisha's bodyguards, and she confronts him to a battle. It's cringe feminist crap. In the original game, after doing the Dune scenario or the Al-Balad scenario, we will be going to Krayt, which is this story that is related to the World 3, the Yggdrasil 3. That story is completely removed from the DEMAKE. You are not going to be able to do that story in this DEMAKE. Then after that, in the original game, we will be going to Litord, which is El Ciclo in the DEMAKEs. This is the town that is trapped on a loop, on a time loop. Now this is actually in the DEMAKE, in the newest DEMAKE, but it's an optional part of the game and you cannot go there yet. After doing Litord, this will be the first time in the original game where you can start the whole flying carpet scenario. So now let's go back to the DEMAKE, and in the DEMAKE, the next section that you can do after Al-Balad, after the Dune section, you now are going to the water section, which is in the original game it's Avon, Husu and Hemelia. In the DEMAKE, it's the wetlock section. This is where the bird starts kidnapping people to save them from the flooding that Gracchus is going to do to these towns. Well, the change in this section of the DEMAKE, pretty much everything goes the same. Like I said, everything is rushed for Summers with TikTok rot brain. In the original game, you go through the tower dungeon, and after that, you go through the underwater dungeon, the underwater city, where Gracchus lives. And it's actually a pretty neat dungeon. It has its own puzzles, its own layout. It's pretty good. But in the DEMAKE, what they did in this newest DEMAKE is that after you finish the tower dungeon, you no longer go through a water dungeon. You no longer visit the water city. I mean, you go there, but you now only see the final room of the dungeon, which is where you find Gracchus, which is lame as fuck. So far, this has been the worst change to the dungeons in this game. It's garbage. You need to understand that by playing this DEMAKE, you are playing an horrendously inferior version to the original game. Even the 3DS version is much better than this trash. Like, if the original game is a 10 out of 10, the 3DS version is an 8, and this shit is like a fucking 3. This is the extent of the damage they have done to this game. Now, in the present time, you have to go through the tower dungeon again to face a new boss, which is the Giga Mute, which is this cool big chungus big dragon looking guy, which is also a monster class in the original game and in the 3DS version. But in the DEMAKE, you no longer fight that big chungus. You now fight a simple boring as fuck dragon that is basically an asset from one of the other games, probably from Dragon Quest XI. And you have to understand that in this DEMAKE, they removed many of the original monsters from the original Dragon Quest VII, and they replaced them with many monsters from Dragon Quest XI, which is garbage. The developers of this DEMAKE went full lazy. They are lazy motherfuckers. They removed a ton of content, not only because they wanted to streamline the game, no, because they also wanted to make their job easier. So they also removed monsters. What is the excuse of removing monsters from the game? Just tell me, what is the fucking excuse? How does that streamline the game? It doesn't, but you know what it does? It makes the developers' jobs easier, because now they have to produce less monsters. Now they can just copy paste monsters from Dragon Quest XI. Pieces of fucking shit. And finally, you can recruit Melvin now, which is the best character in Dragon Quest VII, hands down. And he gets a new cool scene in the DEMAKE, which I approve. It's a very cool scene. I really like Melvin as a character. I think he's the best character in Dragon Quest VII. And that pretty much is the point that I am at in this new DEMAKE. When I finish the game, I am going to make a new video, a short one, where I expose all the feminist garbage in the game. All the woke garbage, it's going to be exposed in a separate video later. So without anything else to say, I see you on the next part of this expose of the Dragon Quest VII Reimagined DEMAKE version. Fuck this trash.
That was...
My lady.